Hello and welcome back. Let's continue to look at some examples of how to use everything that we've learned in the semester up to this point. This question starts with Montana has approximately 1.068 million people and has an area of 147,000 square miles, if I could spell correctly. So we want to find the population density of Montana in people per square mile. So when we look at this, we see people per square mile. The word per here means divide. So what we want to do is we want to take the people in Montana, divide it by square mile, and we'll see how many individual people there are in each square mile. So we have 1.068 million people divided by 147,000 square miles. So miles squared. So right away we'll see that we have the words millions and thousands in here, and there's a couple of different ways to deal with this, but I am going to do this in the following way. Because Desmos can handle big numbers, I'm just going to turn these into numbers directly. So 1.068 million people. So you should just notice that million is going to be a 1 followed by 6 zeros. So if we multiply by a million, just like multiplying by 10, we can shift the decimal place over, and we're going to shift it over 6 times. So so let me just write 068, and I'm going to shift the decimal place over 6 times. So if it started behind the 1, I'm going to shift it over 6 times and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in these gaps I'll just have to add some zeros. So 1.068 million people is going to be 1,068,000 people. So just write that down. And then on the bottom, 1,000 is going to be 1 followed by 3 zeros. So again, if I multiply by 1,000, here's where the decimal place is. I'm going to move it over 3 times. So 147, and then I'll gotta move the decimal place over 3 times. So we'll add in those gaps there. So it's going to be 147,000, and then again square miles. And then here, these are just a couple of big numbers. So let's plug this into Desmos. We've got 1,068,000. Again, we can see that we've got it adds little gaps in there. 1,068,000 divided by 147,000, and that's going to give us 7.265. What I'll do is I'll round this to the nearest hundredths place. So hundredths is 2 decimal places, so 7.26, but the place after the 6 is a 5, so we want to round up. So it's going to be 7.27. And our units are going to be people per square mile. There's about 7.27 people per square mile. But the next part says that only 72% of Montana land is habitable, meaning that people can live there. So we want to find the population density of only the habitable land. So before we had 147,000, so I'll just write that down again, 1,000 square miles. This is total land, but we only want 72% of that. So we'll take this times 72%, meaning that we'll have 147,000 times 0.72. Again, we don't want to multiply by percentages. We want to turn these into real numbers. and we can plug this into Desmos, 147,000 times 0.72 is going to be 105,840. So 105,840. And again, this is square miles. So this is total land. Over here, this is the habitable land. So now, if we want to find the population density of the habitable land, we do the same thing that we had before. We'll just take how many people are in Montana and divide that by the area. So we'll just take 1,068,000, and this is people, divided by 105,840, and this is habitable land measured in square miles. And again, we can just plug this into Desmos. So we had 1,068,000 divided by 105,840. Luckily, that number is still there, so I can just type it in, hit enter, and we get 10.090. If I round to the nearest hundredth place, the second place after the decimal, the 9 stays, but the zero after that will disappear. So this is going to be 10.09 people per square mile. So this is the population density of only the habitable land. So far, so good. And then the last one, if there are 640 acres in 1 square mile, let's find the population density of habitable land in acres per person. So if I were to try to start this question, what I would want to do is find, well, how many acres of habitable land are there? And I want to divide it by how many people there are. Well, I know how many people there are. That was given to us in the question. But the question is, well, how many acres are there? So we'll have to do a little bit of work to find how many acres there are. So we know that in a previous part, this was the amount of habitable land, but it's in square miles. So that's a little bit frustrating. So we have 105,840 square miles. 840 square miles. And I want to turn square miles into acres. So what I will do is we'll divide. We will take this, and I want to cancel the miles squared, so I'll put miles squared on the bottom, and I'll put acres on the top, so that after they cancel, we're left with acres, and the miles have gone away, which is what we want. We want this in terms of acres. So how many acres are there per mile? Well, there's 640 acres in 1 mile. So if we multiply this out, 105,840 times 640. We're getting some pretty big numbers, but luckily we've got calculators. So 67,737,600. So 6,737,600, and let's make sure that I wrote that down. Oh, it's 67. And again, miles, square miles cancel, and what I'm left with is acres. Cool. And then if we want acres per person, well, now I just want to take how many acres there are, which is this huge number, divided by how many people there are. So we said before that this was 1,068,000 people. And again, we can just plug this into our calculator. So luckily what I can do is I can just hit answer because it was the previous answer. And I can divide that by the number of people, which is 1,068,000. And if I hit enter, so there are 63, if I round it to the nearest hundredth, 63.42 acres per person. 4.32 acres per person. And so if we want to divvy up Montana, divvy up all the habitable land in Montana to every person would get 64 acres. 64 and a little bit extra. And I'll finish the last question in one more video.